you can Gnar hop, and that creates terrain, which you can create a stun directly using the Mega Gnar ultimate there as well. So there are some combos there that do focus on backlines, but when you have a GP and a Corki, I don't really feel like Impunity are that worried about a single target getting focused down.
Yeah, I also think that, like, when we came into the split, we looked at this squad and thought, like, Blaze was probably going to be the reason they won or lost games overall, but it hasn't always been the case for Impunity, also as the meta shifted a little bit, and we started to see some reliance on other damage-dealing roles apart from the bot lane. I think Impunity have found a bit more of an identity. Some of the X factors in this one, they're going to be quiet, they're going to be Taco. I'm curious to see what Faith can do. I think his job is probably to just survive that lane, but hey, we'll see. We've already had one big upset today. Can Impunity make it another and shake up the standings even further as we take a look at our runes coming out of this one? First strike on the Corki.
Very standard stuff. He does get poke a lot in, so first strike makes sense. I mean, Corki honestly just wants to survive to 6 in lane. And in the other lanes, we do have pretty standard runes across the board. The only big thing to mention is we do have Pingwei with the Glacial Augment, so does signal for more of a gank-heavy approach, and I applaud that one. Kaiwing is a champion that has a lot of issues getting away from targets, and there is a triple stun lined up between Taco and Pingwei. Definitely a good strategy to kind of exploit that bottom side. Meanwhile, in top lane, we have very similar rune choices here, but I would say slightly in favor of Quiet. I do like the grass versus grass matchup quite a bit. Not as much sustain coming in from the Gnar. And unless you can utilize Mega Gnar trades very well, it typically is a lane where you do see Gameplank just get ahead of. And we have seen, Gameplank being able to use early TPs. You just go for sort of like a cheater recall into Sheen and just kind of dominate the lane from that place going forward. There are no components that, unfortunately, the Gnar can match you at that 700 price point. So that's typically what happens in the top side. So I do expect Impunity to gank bot and have leads top.
That's the game plan we're going to be watching out for here. As we get underway, Kaiwing and Unified starting off with aggressive posture. Kaiwing getting a couple of licks out onto Blaze and Pinway, but just focus on getting that farm game going. Meanwhile, in the mid, we definitely have to keep an eye here on occasion, see if they can bully Faith out. Faith has definitely been one of the players that has been a liability for Impunity in the past, but I think he's been shaping up a lot more lately, and the question is it going to be enough in this game?
For sure. I feel like Faith, if you look at his stats, he does very little damage compared to most mid laners in the PCS. He's hovering around 21%.
Probably more than Nesty, though.
That's true. Nesty's at like 16, which is like support level damage.
Nesty defies all your stats, man. Oh, Juhan coming in here for a...
He has used his EQ, so this is not actually a fight he can win here, but he is banking on the fact that Syndra can join first.
Okay, they're just going to go for it. Test your smite. No, flag and drag into it, and Taco actually has the jump on him right now. Juhan just didn't calculate it right.
I think he knew the calculations, like 1v1, he wasn't going to win, especially if he just EQ'd dragged up into that space. But Taco, first of all, didn't know that he EQ'd up there, and we already have kind of a weird trade from Pingwei here.
Yeah, it's a lot.
So, I feel like Juhan actually loses a lot of time on that one, and it was a good idea to bank on Syndra coming over, but I feel like he miscalculated how fast the rotation could actually come in, and the answer is fast enough to save him, but not fast enough to make Juhan run for his life.
Yeah, more or less. So, game state fairly even here. Taco going to be making a roam into the mid lane. Bay will try to walk out to safety, as he takes the lane tax that is due, pushes it right on back once again. We are still waiting on that gank down bottom side, but Juhan significantly slowed down here. Might want to wait for him to get another clear off before he makes that visit. And bot lane's actually pretty pushed, so this is kind of hard for him to do.
I feel like I misjudged the matchup a little bit. Without the gank pressure, then you definitely see poke from Kaiwing just doing so much damage. I love his angles here on this top brush. He's been getting tongue lash after tongue lash after tongue lash. Every time we just turn here, it's very difficult for Xayah to avoid a lot of that. Now we finally see Taco coming in. If they want to force this...
full vision, though.
Yeah, he has to expect that he's on vision.
Pinway and Blaze also a little low, so if this turns into a straight-up 3v3, it doesn't favor Impunity. Now, he waits a significant amount of time, but PSG have access to the information here, and they are going to be bringing Juhan in for lane gang. Taco on another ward, so they go in Zenith Blade. Pinway gets deleted before Taco can even do anything. Blaze burns his flash, and Taco, caught on the Flame Chompers, limps away.
Oof, that was just painful to watch. PSG had that angle covered completely. They probably knew as soon as they had the Glacial Augment that was going to be the case here. I expected Impunity to actually wait a little while longer for that gank to develop. You really want to wait until you have 6 from Gameplank, who's having a great time top lane, as we were talking about. He's holding the wave here, and he does have that Sheen buy. And in the meantime, you really want to get that serrated Dirk to control the lane for Impunity. So forcing things a little bit too earlier on, they will pay a very heavy price for it. And we've seen this so many times. Unify a lot of times he just gets leads you're not expected him to get.
I mean, Unified is just ridiculously good. And Taco caught out in his own jungle here by Juhan. Faith going to try and help throw down the Foss Bomb. And here's both supports. But unfortunately, PSG is just winning the day, so they claim their prize, which in this case is Raptor Camp Taco. Despite being able to get that 1v1 early on against Juhan, fallen behind his opposite number. Oh, flash forward!
Flash in. Beautiful.
Hey! Oh, absolutely calculated.
Oh, got the exact number of spheres that he needed right there. You can go up to 6, but he gets the 5 spear calculation. And that's really the difficulty about playing against a Syndra. She knows her damage numbers a lot better than someone that isn't playing her in that moment will. Just great flashing by Bade. That's going to get a Hex Drake. And also force the bot lane to play super safe at this point. This is going to be very difficult for Blaze. He doesn't have Featherstorm, and he doesn't have any summoners here. So venturing out is a tough ask at this point.
Yeah, that was the other thing about that fight down bottom. Not only did Blaze have to get quickly back to safety, but lost both his sums in doing it, and Taco trying to get a little bit of jungle on for himself. Oh, he doesn't even take the last one. Meanwhile, we don't even have time to talk about that, because look what's happening. A repeat gank. Immediately Blaze gets popped. Kill into the pocket of Unified, and oh, it's going from bad to worse for Impunity down here.
Yeah, Impunity did not manage to hold the wave in that situation, and their jungle just burned his flash onto the top side of the map. They're completely isolated here, and that's kind of the problem when you're playing this sort of a weak mid laner. A lot of times the pressure is going to transition into bot. The bleed over is, at this point, very hard for bot lane to deal with. I feel like Blaze he doesn't have control of the lane, even on this item buy. Usually, we do see Xayah starting to be able to push, but with the 2 kills here, that's not going to be the case. And Impunity, they have that late game scaling. I'm not going to count Viego, Gameplank, and GP out, but it's looking like a real far way off.
Yeah. Quiet needs to stack a lot of gold real fast. Sitting on that Sheen. He's been having a pretty good time, as you mentioned, but unfortunately the rest of the team has not.
Yeah, and what we were really waiting for was the level 6 cannon barrage and the package to come through on a big team fight. That's what this comp is really all about. You want to have bottom side fight, a 3v3, where the other members can just funnel in and make a clear win out of that. The problem right now is, if you look at the 3v3 in the bot lane, they pretty much just get one shot. So it doesn't even matter if the rest of your pieces have the additional mobility to get there. Your team that starts the fight is not going to survive till then.
No, it's you need to stay alive long enough for the teleports and the plays and the globals to start coming through, and not happening. PSG going to open up onto Rift Herald. Hanabi is able to roam after shoving the wave. Taco's nearby here, but that would be a risky proposition to try and counter it if he really wanted to. Does spot this out, though, courtesy of that Scryer's Bloom, but a little too late to do much about it.
So I think in the late game, I feel like Impunity still have a lot of chances to kite away from danger. If you look at their composition, they have the triple barrel chain, and they have Faith just raining down rocket barrages onto Bay. So they still have a good chance of kiting this game out and bringing it into a standstill. PSG do not have the strongest of engages, especially if you look at Kaiwing, and Juan, of course, is great engage, but they don't really have much coming in from their support position. So Impunity, they just have to weather the storm at this point. Where Taco ends up is going to be absolutely critical. And this is a great timing by PSG. There are no TPs across the map, only cannon barrage here, and they're going to force it out.
Yeah, I think so. Well, maybe not. Okay, spoke a little bit too soon there as took a little bit of poke, decided to get cold feet on that one. No need to expose yourself to a bad situation as PSG playing pretty calm and measured. I'll be forcing quiet back a little bit there. And that is something that this iteration of PSG has been particularly good at, is just reading the map, reading the game state, and making the correct play 9 times out of 10.
They are very risk-averse. I actually expected them to just go in and at least force out the ultimate right there, but they didn't want to get the 2-man caught on the top side of the map. Like, they had 2 extra ultimates in that fight, and they still played it extremely safe. This is 2022, new PSG for you.
Yeah, I know, right? How things change. Definitely a bit of a different look without Maple and River. But Bay and Juhan definitely have added their own flavor in the way this team has played. It has been very calculating gameplay. And there's a big part of why they sit atop the league. But not as cozy on that throne, Clement. Keep in mind, PSG, right? Like, they've been the #1 seed into the playoffs for a year now, consistently, and won it after the fact. So if they don't get that first seed, it'll be the first time since 2020.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a huge thing to remember, how dominant PSG have really been. It's kind of easy to forget, but these guys weren't the Flash Wolves, okay? You might see Maple, you might see Hanabi, it's like, they're the Flash Wolves, but they really had a pretty big transition. Most of the Flash Wolf staff actually ended up in the LPL, and they are a brand new organization on their own coming into the PCS. We are going to see the Herald drop, and this should be a clean Herald take right here. I don't think Impunity want to sink resources into defending
here,
this.
But Blaze already tanks a big zap. That's going to be so close to finishing off the tower. Blaze is so low, and rocket intercepted by Taco. This is a bit touch and go here, and Faith has picked up a package, and he's looking for someone to sign for it.
Yeah, I'm a little bit curious on Impunity's decision to actually tank the tower right there. They do hold on to their tower, but I don't think it makes much sense in the grand scheme of things, and they will just end up losing the Drake for it. So we'll see if they have any fight right here. Like, I feel like PSG are still pretty happy to just walk into bot lane and just outrange and take the tower down anyway, so they're not very concerned about that attack being throtted. As we finally get the response I personally would have wanted to see, Impunity moving towards the top side, trying to get something in return.
Nabi doesn't see this until it's a little bit late right now. Let's see if he can stay alive. Cannon Barrage comes down. Narvar about to run out. And he gets stopped and stunned. Nowhere to go. And that is going to be the pickup. In exchange for tower, Faith claims a kill. But how much more can PSG get here, as they've got 3 and a minion wave on tier 2?
Yeah, I feel like a lot of times a better play in that situation is you give up the tower, you preserve HP on most of your champions, and then you look for cross-map plays. I feel like Impunity lost a little bit too much in the defense, and the rotation was slow. I feel like Taco could have headed top lane immediately when that play was starting to develop right there. And, you know, I really would have preferred, like, quiet Cannon Barrage, drop bot lane, try to get something back onto top side. But in this case, you know, the gold lead actually shifts massively towards PSG, as inner towers actually contain a lot of gold.
Yeah, all that buys Unified a shiny new Kraken Slayer as well, and this is going to be a little bit tough for Impunity to try and fight out. Now, critically, though, Quiet does have access to his Trinity Force too, so the Gangplank has been doing all right. I wanted to call attention to the fact that Hanabi has been outplaying this, and now, even with the nerfs to the Hullbreaker, he still opted into it for a first item. Of course, I guess in Mega form, Nar is melee.
I've seen on 12.5. The builds really haven't changed that much. Hullbreaker is still pretty common on Gnar, even though I do feel like Gnar should be very much weaker. It's easier to trade on him without all those extra resistances, especially in mini Gnar form. He only gets 50% of those resistances compared to his melee form. So he is a little bit easier to take down, especially when mini Gnar. But it's still pretty common, and we also see Triforce being built a lot onto the Gnar these days around. So Hanabi, just happy to say in 1v2, they have full vision of Taco, but he knows that his jungler is around as well.
Yeah, if there's anybody who's familiar with the Na'Vi Gangplank matchup, it's got to be Hanabi too. And definitely knows the limits of what he can get away with, and pretty full control here for PSG as they're baiting around the side. Ooh, that ward saved the life of Pinway.
Yeah, I absolutely love the way that Hanabi played this. Early on, there's nothing much you can do against the Gangplank. I feel like he always gets that, just the Sheen item buy, the TP bag, and you can't trade against him. But something that Hanabi did really well in this lane is he actually punished Quiet for holding the wave. One way you play against the Gangplank is you make sure he can't parlay you constantly and has to deal with the minion wave. So you're just pushing him in, and whenever Gangplank tries to walk up and trade, you have the minion wave behind you, and you can also do a lot more auto trades without worrying about countermeasures from the ranged minions on Quiet's side. So that was really beautiful from Hanabi's part, and pretty common in the way that you have to play some of these lanes. It's about stacking up and knowing that when you have to use the minion wave to your advantage. As Taco is here, but probably takes aggro a little bit earlier than we wanted to.
Yeah, a bit of a misfire there, and turns tail and runs away from the baby Yordle in pajamas.
I would do the same thing too. Just saying.
Oh yeah, I mean, Nar's terrifying. I don't want to deal with that. But yeah, almost 16 minutes on the clock. It's been a low kill game because PSG, they've just played this out relatively safe. It's a 5,000 gold advantage, not to mention the Drake stack they've got building. It will be an Ocean Rift, worth pointing out this time around. So a lot of terrain to play with, a lot of brushes to hide in, and might make Impunity's life a little bit more difficult. Have to ward up a lot more.
Just an interesting stat to throw out. PSG has won 100% of the games where they have a lead at 50 minutes. We're already at the 16-minute mark, and I think it's fair to say that they have a very solid lead. This is not a team that ever throws to the point that you can claw the game back. Definitely very different from the old PSG in that sense.
Very
we
true.
have the siege going on.
Oh no, second Shelly charge. They might even get a third off of this one. Look at how much damage Unified is dealing onto the tanky members, and yes, a third Shelly charge. I believe the camera pans away there, but we'll have to see if they didn't delete it in time. All the same, Hanabi also shoving wave on bottom side, and yeah, this is the PSG game plan. They're just squeezing Impunity out, who are locked into the playoffs, but would have loved to grab a win here today. Still a chance to do it, but it gets harder and harder.
I feel like Impunity are just still waiting on the second package to come in. They do have the package now onto Corki and an Ocean Drake coming up, so potentially they want to stop the Drake stacking, but at this point I feel like PSG should be confident enough to just walk in and fight this. There are a couple things that Impunity could win out on. Hanabi has 0 rage bar here, so that could mean a huge moment for Impunity. See if they can catch anyone out.
They do see Drake, and that's okay. You can always come right back onto it. They don't necessarily need to fight over that one, so it is given out. But Impunity, even though they've managed to sneak one, let's see if they get away fully safely here. Juhan does get caught for a little bit of damage, but not much. And that's going to be a blue buff takeaway for Unified this time around. Ooh, I wasn't pinging out for help. No, that's okay. They can't quite chase on this.
Yeah, PSG still staying way too safe right here. And remember the stakes again. If Impunity win, if PSG win here, they will keep the game difference at 3 games with only 2 remaining for both CFO and Beyond Gaming. So they can keep themselves out of reach of those 2 teams if they take this victory.
Now, Deep Cross and J-Team still have the opportunity to catch them. They'll be back 2 games after this, but it does get a lot harder for those 2 squads to close it out, and PSG can definitely look to go 3 for 3 in a couple of years here as #1 seeds heading into the playoffs. This has been one of the more competitive splits we've seen so far, and a lot of it has to do with just so many new teams and so many new players coming into the league. I think we had something on the scale of almost half the active starting players on day 1 were, if not rookies, players that did not have nearly as much stage experience. So it's a big paradigm shift, but some of the old adages of the last couple of years do still seem to ring true with PSG finding that dominant momentum. We thought things would be different when they lost on day 1 to Beyond. Well, they're going to have some chance to right those wrongs, if you will, at the end of the week.
Yeah, hopefully we will see more teams getting in on the fray. 2021 was all about Dago and Maple kind of dominating the league. Unified as well, part of that squad. Bay is I can't believe how audacious he's just split pushing this. He's walking up the taco that can stun in point blank, and he doesn't care. He has Kaiwing there with the flash and devour. He's actually incredibly safe in this position. And in the meantime, you have a big wave crashing down onto the mid lane. That means a Gnar can join here as well. We aren't seeing Hanabi actually hold on to his mini Gnar bar just yet. Okay, there he goes. He wants to charge that up. Probably join the top lane once that wave is shoved in. Here we go. Juhan could threaten the massive engage whenever he wants to. I believe he has the stasis as well, so if he wants to, he definitely could pull the trigger.
Okay, good defense, though, for the time being. They actually managed to hold on to it. Unfortunately, Faith is a little bit low. Here we go in the picture-in-picture. We're going to check this one with Gangplank v. Gnar. Ooh, stun on Pinway, but nobody's able to follow up. Not the target you want anyways. Here comes Taco. Oh, it's a tense moment. They do manage to land the Solar Flare, but no follow-up damage. Key ultimate down here, and this should be the tower.
Yeah, just mounting pressure by PSG. They just let things simmer and
oh dear,
let it boil. Taco able to walk out right there quite easily. Let's get some extra resistances there. And I feel like this is just the PSG style. They just sit back and just put more and more pressure. They force you to be the ones who are the aggressors. And when they don't see a response, they just keep on taking more and more. It's 20 minutes, 8,000 gold ahead already. And we are still waiting for those mirror manas to go online. I feel like that's when Impunity feel that they might have a standing chance. But right now, they stacked it close to 80% on both Blaze and Faith, just waiting for those big items to come in. We also need the Mythic on Faith as well. Typically, they don't go for the Ludens. 339. Once he gets that, I think that Impunity will be doing a lot more damage and feeling a little bit more confident in trying to start things off.
There might be a Baron fight coming off of it. I mean, with the way this is going so early, even though PSG are playing very safe, they could threaten this and try to turn for the fight on their own terms. The question is, do they want that?
I feel like PSG, because they don't have the best of turn, are likely not going to start Baron proactively. They're much likely to actually wait for death brushes around these areas. I feel like that's easier to do in these tight corridors. Yeah. You can use Flame Chompers as pseudo-engage and just trap people as they come forward. Starting the Baron against Corki plus Cannon Barrage, that seems a little bit risky, so I understand what PSG are doing here. And once more, if they win this game, they can take two contenders off of the table to catch their spot. So they're going to play probably as safe as possible.
Yeah, PSG don't want to give anything up, especially after surprise loss against the likes of CFO. Won't want to give that one up again. However, another objective on the table, a lot easier to secure than the big purple worm is, of course, that Ocean Drake they missed out on last time around. So with this, it would put them at soul point. Easy enough to take between Juhan and Hanabi. They can still hold the line, and look at this. Impunity trying to fan out here and clear some vision on the pit up top, as well as finish off a tower. They do need something. Impunity have not managed to get a single tower in this game.
Ooh, it's been a really rough time, and a lot of it has just been because of both losing side lanes and not getting a good trade top either as well. I do like this move. They know they can't contest Drake, so they just clear out the Baron, give themselves a little bit more breathing time. We finally have that Luden's Echo completed at 22 minutes.
Let's go.
Second item, that should be the go button, start some poke. Corki will start to hurt after this one. We've all seen how it goes. We could expect just a Hex Drinker next, going for that Malmortius that has been the traditional build right here. And once again, PSG, I don't expect them to fully commit anytime soon. If there is any threat on Baron, there are much easier ways to play out the game. They might even just sit and wait for the Dragon Soul, to be honest. Like, with how we've seen PSG play games this split, I think it's part of the course.
Yeah, kick back and relax. I mean, they don't want to give an opening to this team to come back into it. And as we mentioned in Pick Ban, this is just such a high damage squad that you do not want to risk giving anything over to. Unified on that back picks himself up a rapid fire cannon, so adding a little extra range. Ooh, the rocket flying through. There's nobody you can really delete, but you can irritate Blaze, and honestly, that has its own value.
It's pretty huge. Getting some valuable information on where the AD carry is on the jungle. They know they're going to force it back on him, so they should be very confident of walking into the red side jungle at this point. Kylie's going to lead the way, and if they meet no resistance, it's just going to full clear. start the fight.
Taco, he's going to have to use his Heartbreaker to get out of harm's way. Oh boy.
That was 2 auto attacks and a zap, taking him down to below half HP.
That's 3 Adam Jinx.
PSG look like they're pretty happy to start this one. Hanabi with a great Narbar as well. There are no angles of attack. They have to drop the cannon barrage and try to close on PSG as they are walking out.
Slow response. Already down to 3,000. Teleport actually only just started here as they do get into the Leona pit, but no! Oh, Taco just gets destroyed before he has a chance, and now they're gonna just push forward on this Baron, quiet, isolated from the team, trying to find an opening. In fact, they don't even look for him as they find Pinway. Blaze already down, and Taco just completely ignoring the gangplank, and it's into the mid lane. Oh boy, Unified outranging the tower here.
That just felt like such a weird timing to actually use the TP right there. He should have dropped the cannon barrage earlier. The TP is a very long time to coming in, so he doesn't even manage to put damage on PSG. That's their best chance for the turnaround right there, especially when their magic resistance is getting shredded by the Baron. But kind of perplexingly, Quiet doesn't pull the trigger. They even had a Scryer on him, but just doesn't do it. So
that's PSG, just a slow top lane.
Yeah, they took that with really no threat whatsoever.
A lot of more shiny item buys coming in. That's going to be the Randuins, followed up by Deadman's Plate and on Hanabi and Juhan. The Empowered Recalls, they'll be able to get away from this one. You can tell, again, more risk averse, or rather not unnecessary risk-taking. Here it goes. Way too late of a reaction, and man, Taco, he sees the chance to be a hero, but he just gets stunned for days. Juhan jumps in, forces the back away, and Quiet's like, I'm going to get this. Wait, where'd they go?
Everyone's gone already. So I will have to say that the Scry did come a little bit later, so it was a panic TP. He definitely should have dropped the ultimate before that. Unfortunately, he just didn't know about it, and Navi's going to find a little bit one-on-one time with Blaze. Also very unfortunate for Taco. He flashes over the wall, and Meganar still hits him.
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah, that's rough. Well, PSG looking to close this one out and try to put some distance between themselves and the rest of the teams at the top of the table, looking to try and get as close to locking up that #1 seed as they can. Still not a guarantee that they've got a playoff bye, but it's about as good as you can get with the win here today. However, here's the counter engage, and a big package delivery from Faith. Will it be enough? As Pinway goes golden to buy some time, Faith trying to cut him off here, but Unified turns unstoppable as he takes down Taco. Boss Bomb irritating them, but Kaiwing stiff-arming. No. Meanwhile, Hanabi just wins the game!
This is the most Hanabi game we